Thank you so much for attending my PowerPoint presentation on 7.40. Neutral items explained. First on the list is Ash Legion Shield, a Mars-inspired item that was added in the most recent number patch. When activated, it grants the player and all of their controlled units in a nearby radius a 140 physical damage barrier. On heroes like Beastmaster and Broodmother, it's an insane defensive item, and the 12 movement speed you lose when you activate it isn't even worth considering as a downside. My personal favorite way to use it is on Wraith King, because not only will it make your skeleton super tanky, but it also proves that the official tooltip stating player-controlled units is actually a lie. Valve, please keep broken. Next up is Chipped Vest, and if you're a Position 1 player in a struggling lane, you are going to pray that this item comes up as one of your options as a Tier 1. It's essentially the passive part of Blade Mail, but with flat numbers, heroes taking 30 per right click, and everything else taking 20. It's an amazing farming item for carries, but if you ask me, it's actually best on heroes who are already reflecting some kind of damage. Put this on a Centaur Warrunner and a Spectre, and the creep waves will basically kill themselves. Next up is Dormant Curio, or as my friends call it, the Dorito. This item doesn't actually do anything on its own, but when you upgrade it to the next neutral item, one of its effects will be increased by around 30%. The exact stat that gets boosted by Dormant Curio changes for every single item, but luckily there will be a preview of what changes in the build screen. Now every Dota player has dreamed of picking up a Dormant Curio at 6 minutes and waiting the entire match in order to get a boosted Meteor Hammer. But if you ask me, Dota 2 should have a Steam achievement for getting a Tier 5 Dormant Curio. Next up is Duelist Gloves, and this one is pretty straightforward, granting 20 attack speed if there's an enemy hero within 1200 units. For reference, that's the cast range of a Blink Dagger, but if there's not an enemy hero near there, then this thing does literally nothing at all. If you're an early game skirmisher who likes to right click, you can pick this up for a small boost, and it's especially good on strength heroes who don't have a whole lot of attack speed to begin with. But if you're a carry who's going to be spending the next 15 minutes in the jungle away from any enemy heroes, just go with the Polywog Charm. The Great Lord himself, Gabe Newell, has chosen to give us a small taste of the Kobold Foreman's power by giving us Kobold's Cup as a Tier 1 neutral. When activated, this item gives a 10% movement speed buff to you and any friendly units in a 1000 radius around you. Just like Duelist Gloves, it's also very useful in an early skirmish, but with a 40-second cooldown and 40 mana cost, I find that you don't get to use it super often. Still, it finally lets us know exactly what the Kobold Foreman is sipping on, and I'm proud to say that it was actually a Strawbango Ghost the entire time. Next up is Occult Bracelet, which, from a flavor perspective, converts enemies beating your ass into you getting your IQ points restored. Each attack received will grant a Rite of Elishar stack, which go up to 5 and each provide 0.4 mana regeneration, capping out at 2.0. If you're playing as an early game core who uses spells to farm, think Storm Spirit or Muerta, you can pick it up for an early boost. But if you really want, you can keep it all the way up to Tier 4 and pretend it's an Eye of Scotty. Next up is Polywog Charm, which is one of the only ways in Dota to give a symbolic smooch to one of your teammates. When activated, this item will grant 8 HP regeneration to the target for up to 14 seconds, basically a tango. It also gives a 10% boost to your movement speed whenever you're in water as a passive effect, which I didn't know until like 5 seconds ago. Next up is Weighted Dice, and this is a weird one. Basically, whenever you attack, the game will roll your damage variance twice and let you benefit from whichever roll was higher. This is also true whenever you get the bounty from killing a creep. You'd think it would be absolutely insane on heroes with a high damage variance like Chaos Knight, but people who are way smarter than me have already done the math and determined that it's really not that good. Still, it's a very funny item, and I will continue to get it as Chaos Knight because it makes me feel smart. Before moving on to the Tier 2s, I wanted to mention that I have a Patreon linked in the description below. At the lowest tier, you'll be able to watch all of my videos before they go live on YouTube, and if you're willing to pay enough money and dox yourself to me over the internet, I will handwrite a letter and send it to your house. Please check it out if you're interested, and if you're already a patron, thank you very much for your continued support. Next up is Defiant Shell, an item that's amazing on pretty much every Position 1 except for Troll Warlord. This item comes with a passive called Reciprocity, that, on a 5-second cooldown, whenever you're attacked, will make you attack right back with 80% damage. It's great for both farming and fighting, but if you're playing as Troll, it will also completely reset your fervor stacks onto a random target, and the game actually recommends you pick it up. Strength heroes like Sven can use it as a pseudo attack speed boost, but the funniest is on a hero like Windranger mid-ulti when she randomly shoots another arrow at a completely different guy. Essence Ring is one of the first active neutral items you're likely to see in pretty much any given Dota match, meaning that it is often your first opportunity to forget to use your neutral in a fight. When activated, it grants 240 current and max HP, so you can use it preemptively before jumping into the entire enemy team as Axe. It's overall a very useful item, and it's probably going in the Neutral Item Hall of Fame at some point for how many times it's been cycled in and out of the game. Now, if Polywog Charm was your way of giving your teammates a little smooch, Mana Draft may as well be a romantic candlelit dinner. When used on an ally, it will restore 18% of their maximum mana plus 70 over the course of 6 seconds, making it amazing at scaling into the later stages of the match. If you really want to go all in on Mana Draft maxing, you can go ahead and pick up 4 of them on your team and funnel them into a Medusa, one after another. Next up is Poor Man's Shield, an item you used to be able to just buy from the shop, but is now demoted to being a neutral item every other number patch. It has a guaranteed damage block effect against enemy hero attacks, but the amount blocked actually varies on whether the wielder is melee or ranged, being 30 and 20 respectively. On non-enemy hero attacks, it only has a 50% chance to block any damage, but if you roll high enough, you can start diving tier 3s at 17 minutes. Next up is Searing Signet, which will make all of your magic damage nukes even magic damage nukier. Whenever a hero is able to deal 55 magic damage or more in a single instance, Searing Signet will proc, applying a powerful damage over time effect. Note that you need to be able to deal all 55 of that magical damage in one single instance, so heroes that rely on damage over time effects like Jakiro or Venomancer might not benefit nearly as much as you may think. It also only works off of magical damage, so even though Dota Plus may gaslight you into thinking it does, it will never proc off of Drow Multi-Shot. And finally for the tier 2s, we have Tumbler's Toy. This item is a miniature force staff that will allow you to go over a very small distance of impassable terrain, or jump scare an enemy support by walking out of the trees. It's a very simple item, but it can be quite fun to use, especially if your name is Nisha, you're playing as Tusk, and you're in an insane roach fight trying to seal the Aegis. If Valve ever really does open up a Neutral Item Hall of Fame, this will probably be inducted right after Poor Man's Shield. Moving into the tier 3s, Gunpowder Gauntlet is an item that, if you have a timed crit or just do an insane amount of damage already, will allow you to suck the soul out of support players. On a 6-second cooldown, this item will apply 120 bonus magical damage to your next attack, and also converts 50% of it into splash damage. It's great for farming, great for fighting, and if you're playing a Slardar with a bash prep, you can use it to run down a support player in an alley. Really catch 'em lacking. Next up is GD Pollen Bag, which is everyone's favorite neutral item to forget to use. When activated, this item will spread a debuff and an AoE around the user that slowly ticks down as 1% of the opponent's maximum HP, while also decreasing their health restoration. Now 9% of their max HP is nothing to sneeze at. Get it? But also, the damage is non-lethal, so if you're unable to deal the final blow, you might as well just save it for the next fight. Now if Tumbler's Toy was a miniature force staff, Psychic Headband is a tiny hurricane pike. When cast on an enemy target, it will force it 400 units away from you regardless of your current distance, giving you a little bit more time to run for your life. As a fun little tip, you can actually precast it on a Magnus, so that when he blinks in to get a 5-man RP, he instead catches jack diddly shit. Now for Serrated Knife, one of many items that Valve has added to Dota specifically to make bullying offlaners easier. This item grants a sort of crit that gives a 20% chance to have True Strike and deal 8% of the opponent's current HP as additional physical damage. Throw this on a Wind Ranger and that 8000 HP pudge won't be nearly as big of a problem in late game team fights. Unrelenting Eye is a weird one, and you can tell because it was demoted from a tier 5 all the way down to a tier 3. It grants 50% slow resistance, which is an absolutely insane stat, but that slow resistance is reduced by 10% for every enemy hero in attack range. It can be useful for escaping ganks that rely on slows rather than stuns, but it also creates situations where you are mechanically encouraged as a sniper player to put your Dragonlance in your backpack. Next up is Whisper of the Dread, which I have been incorrectly calling Whispers of the Dead for the last 2 years. This item offers a very simple exchange, boosting your spells by 10% but reducing your daytime vision radius by 15%. Pair it with the enchantment that gives you an extended vision range, and suddenly you have a Whisker of the Bread with no downside. And now for the tier 4s, and we're going to be starting off with the all-time great of neutral items that you forgot to use. Crippling Crossbow comes with a unit target effect that slows for 80% while also cutting their health restoration in half. The slow gradually fades over the course of 4 seconds, but it's an incredibly powerful way of catching up to an enemy hero who thought that they could escape this teamfight alive. Flayer's Boda is one of 3 new tier 4s that Valve recently added to the game in an attempt to create a new genre of neutral item. This is the offensive one, granting 15% bonus base damage and 30 attack speed for 6 seconds when activated. That doesn't sound so great, but the gimmick is that whenever you kill an enemy hero, the cooldown refreshes itself automatically. In ideal circumstances, you'll be able to pop it 5 times in a single teamfight, even though your rampage will ultimately be stolen by an Ogre Magi using Fire Blast. Next up is Giant's Maul, an item that gives every Dota hero access to the unbridled joy of having a predictable crit. Every 15 seconds, you'll be able to pull off a 140% crit that slows their attack speed, movement speed, and cast speed. That quirky little upside will make Shadow Fiend players feel like they're swimming in mud when they're trying to cast their ulti. And now for the second item in the new genre Valve is attempting to spawn with Idol of Skriok. When activated, this ability grants 50% slow resistance, 25% evasion, and phased movement for 5 seconds at a time. It's really only useful as a panic button for squishy heroes who get jumped on and want a chance to possibly walk away alive. It's probably the least interesting of the 3 Super Saiyan modes Valve has added to the neutral item pool, though that also makes it the most consistently useful. And the final of those 3 options is Metamorphic Mandible, a rather Kafka-esque addition. When activated, for 4 seconds your hero becomes small, boosting your movement speed by 15% and your magic resistance by 35%, because bugs are immune to spells, I guess. On the downside, your armor is also reduced by 45%, making it even easier for the enemy carry to one-shot you. And the final tier 4 is Rattle Cage, which has a very long text box that effectively boils down to a boof-ass blade mail. I'm gonna keep it a buck, I'm not reading all of that shit. It looks like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. It's basically Razor passive, so if you know what that does, it's that. I wrote a little bit about how angry I am that Madstone falls on the ground. Feel free to read it if you like. Our first tier 5 is going to be Book of the Dead, and this was Valve's apology to any players who actually missed using Necronomicon. When used, it summons 2 warriors and 2 archers, giving you access to multiple copies of Dispels, True Sights, and all the other things these little bastards can do. But let's be real, the only reason anyone ever popped this item is to deal 10% damage to a tier 3 tower on an 80-second cooldown. Still, there's always a chance that an enemy support wasn't around for when Necronomicon was in the game, goes on the warriors, kills both, and instantly dies. Next up is Dazun Bloodbright, an item that actually got promoted from a tier 4 up to the big leagues. This item grants 16% additional spell AoE, but makes you pay 35% of your mana costs with additional HP. This is a trade that pretty much every caster will gladly take in the late game, and if the enemy Leshrac picks this up, good luck next. Now if you're a carry player and you want to show everyone in the lobby how big your dick is, Divine Regalia might just be the neutral for you. This item gives a flat 20% to all outgoing damage, but it loses this effect whenever you die. If you're in the deep late game and you really want to go all in, pick up this and a Divine Rapier, and if you don't win the game, make sure to blame your team. Meteor Hammer is probably one of the funniest neutral items in the history of Dota, and I am so glad that it has been with us for pretty much every patch since the introduction of neutrals themselves. This item is a Meteor Hammer with the cast range of a Blink Dagger, but instead of summoning a meteor from the sky or whatever, it instead summons you. You crash onto the ground, dealing damage and stunning anything you hit, which includes buildings, and if you're really cheeky, you can combine this with a Blink Dagger for the most ridiculous slow siege you've ever seen. Minotaur Horn is a 2-second BKB that grants a basic Dispel on cast and a 40-second cooldown. That's it. Rip Shadow Prism is Valve's way of attempting to bring Illusionist Cape back to the game without making PL even stronger than he already is. The illusion lasts for 20 seconds and the item has a 30-second cooldown, basically just making it a Manta style with a higher uptime and no Dispel. It doesn't seem very good on paper, and I've never seen anyone go it in a real match, so all we can do is wait for Valve to either buff it or remove it from the game and pretend it never existed. Now when it comes to promotions, very few neutral items have the insane tenure of Spider Legs. It also grants 20% movement speed, so you can use it as a pair of replacement boots when you pick up your 3rd Butterfly as Drow Ranger. Fun fact, the active used to be called Scurry, but they had to change it to Skitter once they added Hoodwink to the game. And last of them all is another tried and true all-star with Stygian Desolator. This item will reduce the armor of any targets by 13, and you can combine it with normal Desolator and Assault Cuirass for a total of minus 25 armor. Add Slardar's Ultimate and Vengeful Spirit's W to the mix, and you can reduce a target's armor by up to 54. And you can use this setup to make your Crystal Maiden with their 250 attack speed talent hit like a nuclear bomb. In conclusion, neutral items are ambivalent, and I guess you can use them. One of the funnier parts about playing Dota for so long is that you no longer become opinionated on the state of the game's balance. You just start shrugging your shoulders and saying, well, I guess we're doing this for a few months. Peace on planet Earth.